Hey gang, how's it going? Sorry I'm a couple of minutes late to my own little coming out party here, but I appreciate your patience. If you guys have missed the first couple of videos that I've posted here, for the most part so far, I've been kind of speaking vaguely, and I've been talking about some of the keys that I've found in recovery. Before I dive into my particular rock bottom story, I wanted to share a couple of things. I talked about my recovery program. I talked about exercise, meditation, mindfulness, religion, and all that stuff. I overlooked a very important one. For one, I have attended some meetings in the past. I attended AA and I enjoyed it. But what I found to be incredibly valuable was smart meetings. If you hop online and look up smart meetings, if you're not religious, if you don't feel comfortable at AA for any variety of reasons, I find smart meetings to be very effective because it really opens up the room as more of a forum so you can immediately give and get feedback and find solutions. However, by and large, there's a reason why AA has been the most productive and straight line to sobriety. The other aspect that I've overlooked and I haven't mentioned is therapy and medication. I am medicated for anxiety and depression. This was a cocktail, to use a very inappropriate choice of words, of medications. I found that out in treatment when I went through treatment about a year ago. And once I struck that combination, it was huge. It was a big game changer. I continue to see a therapist. Obviously, in the current state of things, it's harder, but there is opportunities to do therapy sessions digitally and virtually. So I assure you that therapy can only help, and through proper counseling and psychiatry, I emphasize psychiatry, not a general practitioner and not necessarily a therapist, but psychiatry, there is a medicine combination that can help people who are struggling with mental illness. So, without further ado, I was working this morning on my memoir. I was listening to some good music, and that got me in the right headspace to share with you my rock bottom story. I've been advised to keep these videos like 4 or 5 minutes long by very smart people, but I've also been advised to not cut it short. So buckle up. If you haven't popped some popcorn, now's the time to do it. Use the Jiffy Pop, it's probably the fastest, because this could take a while. And I appreciate everybody being here and everybody taking part in the conversation. My mother-in-law, who I love very, very much, is chiming in and inviting you guys to chat. My friend Liz Sierks, a very, very close friend of mine, is saying good morning. Good morning, everybody. I love you all very much. So today is 307 days sober. I celebrated my 10-month yesterday, and there was a point. I got sober 2 Christmases ago and through the new year. For about 10 days, I went without drinking, and it was extraordinary. I suddenly had lots of energy. I was thinking more clearly. I was connected with people. And quickly I went back to work after the new year, and I fell off the wagon. And then basically from then up until Friday, March 22nd, 2019, good morning, Adam. Love you very much. Up until that Friday, there wasn't a day that went by that I didn't have a drink. That was typical. That I wasn't counting 2, 3, 4, 5 days of sobriety most of the time. I was lamenting and feeling horrible and awful and ashamed of the fact that I would go 2, 3 weeks at a time without at least having a drink each day. There were few and far between days when it was 1 or 2 drinks. But anybody who's had any brush with addiction knows that it was very rarely 1 or 2. It was 2, 3, 4, 5 as I continued to try to chase what I was looking for in terms of relief and self-medication. So, I pretty much drank right up until, I drank myself silly right up until, the worst were work days. I hated my job. I know a lot of people hate their job, but for me it was an accelerant on an existing problem. I had, the mental illness stuff. I had trauma, and I was medicating that. And then you put a job that is bad for your soul on top of it, and the flame gets bigger. It gets worse, more intense. So the week leading up to rock bottom, I was drinking every day, drinking my way through the workday, covering court cases, planning and laying out the newspaper, managing my staff. And finally, on Friday, March 22nd, it was the NCAA tournament. It was the second day of the tournament. And whenever it would be like an important day in baseball, like opening day, or if there were daytime baseball games, or probably the mother of all sports events, the NCAA tournament, I gave myself this reason that I could drink particularly hard, because I thought back on college. I thought back on all the pageantry of these events and how it was like this rite of passage every year, and how alcohol was such a central focus of that. So on those days, my drinking was particularly bad. And on that Friday, I started out early, as honestly I often did. And it got to be midday, and I continued to drink until it got to be like mid to late afternoon. And I had an argument with somebody in my office, and I left the office and I started drinking. I was drinking a dark beer that was like a ridiculously like closeout price from the grocery store. And I'm not even a dark beer guy, but it's what was affordable. I drank Milwaukee's Best. I drank the nastiest beer around because I could drink more of it faster and I could hide the cost of it. So that particular day, I'm sitting in my car and I'm drinking and I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling doomed. That's how I felt with my job. I felt like I had no option but to continue to plug away, because I needed to support my family. I needed to continue what I was good at. I couldn't possibly lose my house. We needed to pay our bills. So I felt like I had no option. So I coped with it by drinking. And I'm sitting in this little like tiny like driveway type thing that leads to nowhere near the local airport. That was one of my favorite places to just park the car, because I could back in and I could see in both directions in case anybody was coming. So I'm sitting there and I'm drinking and I'm watching the Badgers get throttled by Oregon. And I'm getting drunker and drunker. And typically in my work day, I would suck it up at some point and I would go back to the office and grind through it. And relieved, I would go home, spend the night with, the family and Kayla, and dry up for a couple of hours, have a whole bunch of water, and think that I'd get through it that way. This particular afternoon, though, I'd had that argument and something in me broke. Something snapped. And I decided sitting there that I was done running. I messaged Kayla. I told her she had to come and pick me up. And she did. She and the girls hopped in the car and they came and they picked me up. And I messaged my boss and I told him that I was going to get help, that I was going to check into a mental health facility. So we drove home. Kayla had called my therapist, and on her advice, I packed a bag and I prepared to go to the hospital and to go straight from the hospital into treatment. So we came home and I packed my bag. I packed everything that I thought that I would need for the next few weeks. And I knew I was going to have to say goodbye to my kids and goodbye to Kayla. And I was going to have to trust that they would still be here when I got back. And to get to the hospital, my therapist advised, you're going to want to call and get Christopher an ambulance ride, which is exactly what Kayla did. So I went outside, I got into the ambulance, and I was infuriated with myself. I was yelling, crying. I was so angry at myself that I'd gotten there. And the bedside manner of the couple of paramedics was extraordinary. The one guy assured me that it was okay. That it was okay to hit rock bottom. And I believed him. And that was a crucial point we got me to the hospital, got me checked in, got me settled into the ER, and I quickly found out that a social worker came in and talked with me and asked me, you know, what I thought I should do, and she advised me that treatment was an option, but that I could not be transferred directly from the hospital to treatment. So basically, the purpose that the hospital served was to get me some information and to advise me and let me dry out and make sure that I was safe. And I sat there long enough that I, you know, was just sober enough that they could discharge me. And I thought I was going to go straight from there to a treatment center. Instead, I was discharged at about 2 or 3 in the morning. I was basically told, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. So they called Kayla, which, you know, Kayla's at home sleeping, probably not sleeping, honestly. And 2 little girls at home in their beds. So I didn't want her to, you know, have to wake up and come and get me. So I started walking. I got partway through the parking lot. The hospital is about 1.5 miles from our house. And I just realized, I was like, this is stupid. Like, this is not a good idea. So I went back and I started to crash in the lobby at the hospital. And I turned my phone back on and Kayla was there. She had messaged and she was going to come and get me. So she came and she got me and brought me home. In the dead of the night, she brought me home. And there was something about it that, you know, I had felt so much shame. But there was this relief about it. Everybody's rock bottom is different. Some people lose their houses, some people crash cars. So help me, I have no idea, apart from the grace of God, as to how I didn't hurt anybody else with my alcoholism. How I didn't cause a crash. How I didn't lose my emotions and lose control of my emotions and such. But regardless, I got to that point where I was able to surrender. I was able to say, enough is enough. I need to get help, or we're never going to get through this. So that, I mean, over the next couple of days, I'm going to keep going with this story because there's so much more to it. But that day, it came down to surrendering. It truly did. You know, there's a lot of things in AA that might not work for certain people. I was chatting with a friend of mine recently who doesn't quite, my friend doesn't get behind the concept of AA, and I'm totally with her because there's a certain amount of surrendering your power, surrendering and giving away your power, whereas I agree that so much about sobriety is taking your power back, the power of your life. With that, you can put your faith in God, Buddha, whatever sort of deity you put your faith in, and then you, through that deity, through that higher power, you can reclaim control of your life and seize your potential. Be better. Be better than you ever thought that you could. So there's a lot of stuff to come in the next couple of days. I'm going to walk you through the rest of that weekend. But please, once again, I cannot urge you enough to share this video. You know, before I started writing my memoir, before I started doing this, I had conversations with folks about whether or not it was the right thing to do. There was the conversation of first do no harm. I didn't want to hurt the people in my life and put them through this awful stuff unnecessarily. But if there's one person who's going to read that book, who's going to watch this video, who's going to either who's going to try something, try to change something that might lead to something more, that makes it worth it. If there's somebody watching this video who might have given up on somebody they love, and they decide not to, they decide to actively listen and look for something in those people that opens up the opportunity to bring them back to grace, this will have been enough. So thank you. I thank you for sharing. I really want you guys to help spread this around, because this is what I want to do, man. And the only way I can do it is with you. All right, so in the coming days, I'm going to talk about the days after rock bottom. We're going to talk about the 25th when I actually checked into treatment. I have some cool scientific stuff to talk about down the road, but for today, I love you and I thank you so much for being with me here while I show my vulnerability. Yeah, share this page, share this video, any way that you can put it out there. I'm eternally grateful. I love you all very much. I can't wait to see you again tomorrow. I can't wait until we have flattened the curve and we can see each other in person. And in the meantime, let's lean on each other. Let's not come apart. The world is not coming apart. We are coming together. Thank you. Have an awesome day. Let me know how I can help. Take care.